Let the band play.
Alright, it's been a while and I just got back from the gym and I was looking for an excuse to make videos about earphones. So let's talk about my most recent acquisition, the Sony C100's, their neckband earphones. To preface things, I like to mention that my purchase of these was not the most informed of decisions. They were a quick buy and they were just supposed to replace my wired earbuds or earpieces that I had before. And these seemed the most appealing at first glance and they were wireless, so I was like, why not? So we use headphones or earphones in two major environments. We use them indoors, we use them outdoors. And I'd like to say that the pros that these Sony WIC100s offer, they do not exceed the cons they also offer. Okay, let's begin with indoors. So I have these connected to, I typically use these with my computer, my laptop, and my phone. And while they do not provide automatic multi-device support, I have them connected via Bluetooth to both my laptop and my phone. The only thing is I have to go into settings and manually select which of them is connected to or actively connected to the earphones. These get loud enough indoors that I can effectively drown out all background noise without having to hurt my ears. Quality-wise, they do hold up pretty well, even as they get louder, and there isn't too much of sacrificing frequency levels like mids and highs for lows and bass and whatnot. Battery wise, I'd say these last surprisingly long for how cheap they are, and they charge up quite fast. I'd say you can get about 50% of battery in about 20 minutes, but keep in mind that these are budget earphones. But as you see going through the rest of this video, there are a lot of cons with these earphones. Firstly, these bleed like really bad, and it doesn't help that the satisfactory minimum level of sound that comes from these earphones is almost halfway through on the slider, which translates to the earphones bleeding out pretty much as you get into whatever music or whatever song it is you're listening to. And just to touch on battery again, I find it pretty annoying that the battery levels you're made aware of are just when the earphones are at 100%, 70%, 50%, both visually and with the sound cues. When you turn them on, there's a voice assistant that tells you the battery status of the earphones. And when they're really low, all you get is a less than 50% battery available message. Unsurprisingly, there are a couple of times it gives me that message and then maybe a few minutes later or just a couple minutes later it's asking me to charge the earphones. So if you're the kind of person that has like sensory irritations, you know how annoying it is when someone takes a pen and scratches on a table and it makes that weird rapid noise. Now imagine this, but it's the material of the earphones rubbing against your clothes as you move your head while listening to music. It's definitely a bit harder to describe than the pen example I gave to describe on video, but I promise you, you do not get used to it and it does not get better. Okay, so outdoors. A couple of pros come to mind when using the C100s outside. For one, they give you that like a cool wired look that earpieces sometimes give you, just with the added benefit of them being wireless and allows you to actually move your phone to wherever you want, if you kind of get what I mean, for those of us out there who actually still use wired earpieces. For another, they're pretty resistant to sweat and water, so to say. I've been on Stairmasters with these, tucked in right on my collar, and I'd say they've held up pretty well so far. But now the cons. So you remember the sounds I mentioned that these make when rubbing against a shirt or clothing. Now imagine how much worse that sounds when wearing a jacket. In windy weather, these do not stay in your ears. You know, for a number of us that are still trying to find the perfect earbud fits, these earphones, if you ever get them, they do not help matters. Even in cold weather, you know, this material that wraps around the wires, right, they freeze up, so to say, and they become ever so stiff that they just kind of gradually fall out of your ears as you move your head while walking or while running or jogging, whatever. And eventually I just take them out. Also, depending on how tight the layering is with the clothes you wear, if you live in like a cold environment, these can pretty much fall off you unawares and you would never even know. Okay, so take for example benching at the gym, right? If you do not wear a hoodie or, you know, like 2-layered clothing where you can tuck the bulbs in between, you know, the hoodie and the shirt underneath, these can pretty much just fall off you while you lie down and you wouldn't even realize that they've fallen off your ears, you know, except like you're actively listening to music before. All right, before I end this rant, I just want to touch on a couple more things. Okay, so while I know that they're budget buys, there's a quirky delay in Bluetooth command response times. So for instance, if you listen to music and you press pause, you could have heard like 1/3 of the next verse in the song you're listening to, before the command actually kicks in. And for those of us who like to experiment with EQ and different templates, Sony actually made an app. Aside the premium headphones, the app that exists for those, there's actually an app that you can download that allows you to experiment with different EQs and a bunch of different templates that Sony already has built in for you. I've only spent a couple minutes in there in the last like 4 months. I've had these for. It might tickle your fancy. I might just need to spend more time in there to talk more about that if need be. We'll see. So that's pretty much it for my little rant or discourse about neckband earphones. Check out the rest of the channel. Also subscribe, because why not? A couple years back, I also remember making a video about having to choose between earpieces and headphones. So you can watch that to kind of support the channel. Much appreciated. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.